Hello, hello, hello. For everyone who's like, what is this? This is the Receipts with Davon Williams. It's a show about looking for truth now in its third season. For everyone who's like, okay, I was there for season one, season two, I'm ready for more, welcome back. And I would like to catch you up, just like we did between every other season and every in between season, on what has developed thus far. So, of course, we had season one. Then we had the 1.5, as I like to say, like the Lion King. Then we had season two. And then we had 2.5 with Antoinette, which was pretty cool. The show has grown so much. How much? We have a board. We have a board. You hear that? We can make we can do that. There's a new microphone, and we are filming in the receipts office. Thank you, ATV, our producer, sponsor. I just think of them as everything. We are filming this season in Times Square. Times Square, ironically, right next to the Actors Equity Association building. You can't make this up. So, as I got ready for this season, developing a new team, you're going to hear me call new names like Jonathan, who has been an incredible hand. You're going to hear me sometimes say Napoleon, who was the graphics king for our show and has gotten so much better. Now he's actually in the office. He's like in the office. It's craziness. It's crazy. We are in a studio. We have like every week we're going to like start using the space, the lights and everything else. It's great. The show has grown. The numbers are strong. We are going into a strong third season. We have topics out the wazoo because there's always going to be problems. And we've done a lot. The first season, it started with a man who was perceived as racist, and we got him to go to a Black Lives Matter contest, Jesus Christ, Black Lives Matter protest in Orlando, Florida, for the first time ever. We stuck with him. We spoke with him. He started talking like this, and now he speaks completely different. We've literally seen the evolution of this man. We exposed so many truths. We informed so many people. 1.5, we met a woman named Sherry Sanders. Right now, I am sitting in her Rock the Audition revamp, watching. Season two, we dealt with contracts. And at this point, I want to explain why the show is called The Receipts. The receipts, yes, it's fun. Ooh, I got the proof, but it was never about that. That's kind of the hook and reel. It's called The Receipts because receipts are a form of an agreement, and an agreement is a contract. This entire show was about contracts and agreements. Agreements on paper when we go to do a show, agreements in regards to a relationship between producer, director, actor. It's all about what we agree to in this world, the world being the world of theater specifically. And understanding the complexities of that. We dealt with casting, we dealt with directors, we dealt with cats. When we left off, we did the whole Cats expose. That's the most viewed video. And at the time, that cast was simply saying that people weren't holding up to their agreement and they weren't getting the help that they needed. We took a shot at it, and I can say today that cast is being cut a check. We made a difference. At the same time, when we had finished speaking with the SAG-AFTRA president and executive director, we had announced that we're probably going to do this thing called the Black Theater Matters bill. So then can I get BTMB wins? That bill not only passed, but it's the winner of an Anthem Award. We can pull it down. An Anthem Award. It's funny because at the convention, it was just, it was almost like a Super Bowl show amongst itself, trying to get that thing passed, but it passed. And what was beautiful about it is that now it's getting acknowledged, which was never the point. The point was to get 500 people to talk, to get people to work together and prove that outside of the union, work, coalition building, and things of the like can get done. So why can't we bring it into the union? How do we get there? There are implicit bias classes happening within the union. And also, I remember when we talked about the March on Broadway, which some powerful Black women started. The March on Broadway, in which participants of it were compared to QAnon. Um, Hundreds of people showing up, exceeding expectations. Can I get MOB wins? Also, a gold winner of the inaugural Anthem Awards. My biggest concern working with these two Black women was that they would do this work and then they will be forgotten. And at times it started looking that way. You would see their pictures, you'd see the solidarity pictures in the articles. You could see the toll that it takes on them. One person, I think, has quit altogether. Um, but that moment of acknowledgement is great because so many marginalized people tend to get forgotten. When I looked at all those wins, I was like, God, we got to keep this show going. We got to go bigger. We got to go bigger. We can be the change. We can do all that. And then I started looking back at the videos. And if you look at the final episode of season 2, if you look at my hair, look at that thing. It's alive. She's alive. You could see bald spots. You could literally see stress spots. You could see me balding, aging, becoming more erratic. And it was taking a noticeable toll on me. Maybe at this point, every other week, I started getting messages from people who said, I too have a problem. I too have been overlooked. And the weight of it became too much. And at no point did I ever intend to be the savior of the union, savior of theater, or anything of the like. I just wanted to get onto a show, a podcast, create this, and get some truth and understand what's going on. And by the end of this, know what the truth is. Now, the truth is a double-edged sword. And there's a certain thing to be said about people who are ecstatically in pursuit of it. Just because you get the truth doesn't mean it's going to bring you joy. In fact, it was the exact opposite. In me, after all of these stories and pain and everything else, I had felt something I've never felt before. It was rage. It was rage. I had never woken up so angry. I have never bombed so many auditions in my life. I have never pushed so many people away. I don't know who that person was. But what I do know is that this work is not meant to be on the back of one person. I got to meet a woman named Jenny Steingard, Arts Nova. And she's like, let's go out to lunch. Let's go see a show. And we go to lunch. We're just talking about our lives. And we go see a show called Skeleton Crew. And in Skeleton Crew, you have Felicia Rashad, and she's playing this union head in a plant in Denver. And the plant is slowly crumbling, and she's doing her part to keep everyone safe and helping people get to where they need to go. And slowly she's being left behind. She's being depleted. She loses her house. Spoiler alert, the show closed. She loses her house. She now has to live in this space. Her personal dreams deferred, gone. But so many people that she's helped are having their best lives ever. And every person getting that step is taking a piece of her, and she is draining. She gets so close to her retirement, her dream of getting out, getting her pension and going, and now that itself is threatened. At the same time that the people she's helped might have to go back to where they started. I'm sitting in this play, and we had just eaten a large meal, and I'm like, I'm probably going to fall asleep. Did not happen. I am there enthralled because I'm seeing myself. I start thinking back to another show that I saw called Trouble in Mind. And in Trouble in Mind with LaShawns, I see the same thing of someone fighting, sacrificing themselves, and for what? And then I see MJ the musical. And I see the power of transformative art. Problematic person, we all have our thoughts, we're all in different places, but the art. Fast forward back to me in this seat in Skeleton Crew, and I'm like, what am I doing? I don't know I don't know what this being is. So the show ends. We stand up because they gave the performance of life. And in that moment, I realized I got to get out of here. I got to get out. And that's exactly what I intend to do. We have done enough for the culture. Katori Hall has a play called The Mountaintop with Martin Luther King, and there's this piece at the end where Kamei gives a speech about the baton passing on. There's something to be said about that, especially when it comes to a race. If you try to run a relay race by yourself, you will lose. You don't have the energy. And if you do, you're probably on steroids. I don't take steroids, but you don't have the energy if you're not on steroids. So at some point, you got to pass the baton. And with these 5 episodes left, we will be passing the baton. And I'm going to do something that has taken me a long time to do. For these 5 episodes, I am going to take this off my back and I am going to ask for help. Jonathan, can we get Stephanie J. Block?
The Receipts is excited to welcome Stephanie J. Block. Stephanie has established herself as one of the most relevant and versatile voices in contemporary musical theater. She won the 2019 Tony Award for Best Leading Actress in a Musical, as well as winning the Drama Desk Award and Outer Critics Award for her star turn in The Cher Show. Ms. Block was also recognized for her role of Trina in Lincoln Center Theater's 2016 revival of Falsettos, garnering her the Tony Award, Drama Desk, and Outer Critics nominations for Best Featured Actress in a Musical. In 2013, she was recognized with both the Drama Desk and Tony Award nominations for Best Leading Actress in a Musical for her portrayal of Alice Nutting, Edwin Drood, in the Roundabout Theater's production of The Mystery of Edwin Drood. Other Broadway credits include Reno Sweeney in the 2011 Tony Award-winning revival of Anything Goes, and 9 to 5 the Musical, playing the role of Judy Burnley, for which she earned a Drama Desk nomination for Best Actress in a Musical. She created the roles of Grace O'Malley in The Pirate Queen and Liza Minnelli in The Boy from Oz, opposite Hugh Jackman. Ms. Block is best known for her portrayal of Elphaba in the Broadway company of Wicked, as well as originating the role in the First National Tour, for which she won numerous awards, including the prestigious Helen Hayes Award for Outstanding Actress in a Musical. Please help us in welcoming our special guest host, Stephanie J. Block.
There you are. Hello.
Here I am. Wow, I look at that and go, who is that woman? Who is that woman again? A lot of life has happened since then, huh?
A lot of life has happened. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but it was so funny. And watching the videos and stuff, I was like, oh my goodness, Stephanie J. Block has been so present in my life, like just so present in like my understanding of what theater is. And I was like, how often do people be like, my childhood? Oh my God.
And I think I said I'm at an age where it's happening more often than not. Is that true? Or it's one of those outside of New York, never. But if I'm in New York, they're like, was I at your cousin's wedding? Or did we go to school together? There's a recognition, but not necessarily knowing exactly who I am and, in this world of musical theater.
Not did
And
I
that's
go to
okay
your
too.
cousin's wedding.
I must just have that face, like that neighbor that I think I know you, but how do I know you?
It was funny. What is it? I do this thing called Sing for Your Seniors, and there's this woman on named Elena. And I was like, oh, Elena is giving me like Stephanie J vibes. And then to find out you two clearly work together on the Share Show. You
Oh,
clearly,
totally. Yes, yes, yes.
right?
She was on stage, but she also, I think, covered Lady and Star. Yeah, she's really talented. She's a wonderful woman.
Y'all are some singers. That was a singing show. Y'all had
We had
some
to sing a
voices.
lot of tunes. Yeah.
Here's so everyone, Stephanie and I first met thanks to the Women of March on Broadway.
Mm.
And let me know if I get the story wrong at all. But Courtney and Natalie are like, we need reinforcements. And Courtney's like, where are the white women? And you and Laura Benanti and Celia and Kelly O'Hara
And
and
Sierra
Sierra are
Vargas.
like, here
That's
we
right.
are.
That's right. That's right.
Why?
Well, I think if anybody knew us even peripherally, we always spoke our hearts to what we thought was the focus for political justice, social justice, any sort of vulnerable communities we would try, I think, to amplify in our own way, but yet still trying to make it authentically our voice. My voice is different than Celia's, is different than Laura's, is different than Kelly's. But I think if you were to go back a couple of years, even still, and whether that's an Instagram or a Twitter, you'd see us there. You'd see us trying to put the word out or to see, please pay attention to. And I think maybe that's what had Natalie and Courtney reach out and say, okay, it's time, and we're calling on you for this particular moment. And we didn't know how we were going to be met in that moment or how we were going to facilitate anything that was needed by the ask. But we showed up. I must admit, I was nervous because I'm a Virgo, nervous because I'm a control freak, nervous because I'm a mom. And anytime you're invited into a space, powerful, vulnerable, or any otherwise, you just kind of want to know a little bit about what perhaps we'll be looking at here. And we didn't. We had an idea, but we didn't. And then it was, to kind of be present and also to be a different face and a different voice for certain things that were being put to task with our union or association, I should say, Actors Equity Association, answers that were not being given, questions that were not being answered. And they thought, well, perhaps maybe if these 5 women, these 5 Caucasian women who have made a life in the career out of musical theater, maybe their voices might sound a little different to those that have the power at Actors Equity. And that's what we were there to do. And then it kind of, the branches of the tree went out, and then we were co-hosting, or I should say just kind of lending the moment so that other vulnerable communities could speak out. And whether that was trans or disabled or however we were asked to, we said yes. I can attest that I made many flubs and mistakes along the way, but I just want to keep saying yes to the best of my ability in that moment.
As someone who has not made any mistakes through this path, no, I'm joking. I've agreed to some things. I've agreed to some titles, but I should not have. But when we were working together, it was so funny because I was coming as like the nerd. The goal was like to come in and ask the questions. You all were gonna sit, and then you lit up and started talking about the pension and healthcare, and I
Oh,
said, "Get her, Miss Block. Get her." What? Talk us through that.
well, one thing that had been laying so heavy on my heart is that when you're part of a body of a membership, whether it's a union or an association, and you speak to agreements, right? There's this unspoken agreement. I show up for work, you take my dues, and then when the time comes when we need you, hello, I would like for you to pick up the phone and come to our aid. And as someone who, I say this with great privilege, and now looking back at my career like a video montage, for 20 years I've been working pretty consistently on the Broadway or off-Broadway stage, paid my dues regularly. And when we have this imaginable catastrophic moment like the pandemic, where our industry could not have been more affected, just decimated, essentially. Everybody working in the live arts decimated. To know that there was a fund, a bond, a bank account waiting for us. I didn't know how much was in there, but I certainly knew between Actors Equity Association and the medical health pension fund, there had to be something. And so my question literally was just, what did that conversation look like behind closed doors? Was the body of your membership considered at this time, when you had to recognize, since we had to have 21 weeks of work in order to get our health insurance, obviously that wasn't happening for anyone. Is there a situation where you can look back and say, hey, these people have worked, this person have invested, they're up to date on their dues. Perhaps can we not pay for, I don't know, paperwork of some kind, or I'm not getting the right terms, but just look to the humanity of our association and reach out to those members and say, we got you. It's not a lot. And come to find out that there was $9 million in a fund, in an account, waiting for the worst of times to protect their membership. And that didn't include what the monies were, and I never got to what that number looked like with, pension, health, and trust. And I just thought, this is insane. And they said, well, we didn't know how long this was going to go on. Forgive me if I'm paraphrasing. This conversation, I think, took place, gosh, over a year, maybe a year now, over a year
April or
now.
May, yeah.
Okay, so we're looking at a year. And I just thought, how could anything worse, other than the world imploding or exploding, for our industry, that you can't dig in and tap into those funds and help your membership? We're all out of medical insurance in the middle of a global pandemic. And that just seemed like the basics, the absolute bottom line of saying, I'm looking at you beyond the numbers. I'm looking at our body of members beyond what they can do in the bottom line, and just as humans, and saying, our association needs us. And if we can give each family or each working member paid up to their dues $2,500, $3,000, however that worked itself out, that would have been the time. And I think Mary McCool was taken a little bit by surprise. She was open. There were some subsequent conversations. There certainly was sympathy. I would hope that there was also empathy, because we've all learned that sympathy and empathy are extraordinarily different. But to no avail, I didn't, nor do I believe anybody else did, see any sort of relief in the lack of medical, and that all of us had to face. And it was scary. It was scary as a mom. It was scary as an individual. It was scary when my husband got sick. I mean, we all have our stories and different levels of sacrifices or deficits, as you put it. To speak receipt language, I was in deficit and I needed help. And I felt like I had put in the work and the loyalty to my craft and my union. And gosh, I didn't see that reciprocated.
Part of what shocked me about this journey was that I realized how I really thought, oh, this is just an outlier. What happened to me is an outlier. What shook me was how common, and how there was this underlying connection of all of us feeling overlooked. There's so many feeling overlooked. Mm-hmm. And I think it was more horrifying to be like, oh my God, I'm not the only, like, this isn't just a mistake in the system. This is a norm. And it's a little horrifying. Speaking of, the reason that I asked for your help today, and again, I just want to thank you for that moment. I know for those women, that was a scary moment for Courtney and Natalie. Again, to lead a market, to want to do something and it escalates, goes from 0 to 60, and now you're like this leader of a thing, is incredibly scary, especially when some people just aren't trained for it. Some people are unaware of it. And to see you all come through for them was incredible.
Well, we showed up, but did we come through? I don't know quite how to define the come through part, but thank you for that, and I thank them for inviting us in a very loud and public way to come to the table. It was time. Yeah.
That same question, I ask that same question that you just asked all the time. Um, the reason that I brought you here is
Hmm.
because we are simply here to amplify and uplift Lauren Lim Jackson. And the reason that we're doing that is because Lauren has done something incredibly brave. And we're about to work through that right now. So, Stephanie, if you're up for it, can you read the bio?
Old lady, old lady. Yes.
The
Okay.
bio for Lauren Lim Jackson.
Lauren Lim Jackson has a professional performing career that spans Broadway television, film, and stage. Originally from Orange County, California, she graduated from the Orange County School of the Arts as the academic valedictorian of her commercial dance department, and she later attended Harvard University, where she received her BA in sociology with a secondary degree, holy smokes, in women, gender, and sexuality studies. I have to make this bigger for my eyes. Pardon me. Currently, she is the director of musical theater at the Orange County School of the Arts in Orange County. Her Broadway credits include Pretty Woman, Motown, Memphis, Wonderland, and Finian's Rainbow. She has also been featured in numerous off Broadway and regional theaters and touring companies across the country. Her choreography credits include The Salts, Art Party Theater Company, the Hasty Pudding Theatricals, and the off Broadway smash hit Sisters the Musical. An ADELCO nominee, that is Audience Development Committee Incorporated, an organization that acknowledges and honors black theater and its artists in New York City. Her work on Sisters the Musical is what brings us all together today to uncover some receipts that lack the royal treatment she deserves. On February 24th, 2022, Lauren posted a screenshot of a casting announcement that was seeking submissions for Sisters the Musical that opens in April 2022, next month, and the caption reads, "In the summer of 2011, I choreographed a show about three black sisters celebrating their family history. I was paid about $300 for the workshop. The show then opened off Broadway on October 23rd, 2011. When I went to the producer about receiving my royalty or any fee for for off Broadway, I was told I had already received my fee of $300 and that I should be grateful for the experience." She continues to say, "The show ran until the pandemic shutdown hit and is about to reopen again in April. Over 10 years of my work being used on a stage and on BET, Person of Color, the acronym for Black Entertainment Television, and I've only been paid $300. The only person of color on that creative team. The only person who had any remote understanding of what three black sisters in the show felt. $300. She goes on to conclude that she is no longer that young chorus girl, and it's time to speak up and show the next generation that our art deserves compensation. Davon has invited Lauren today to discuss what she believes the next generation needs to hear. Please help us welcome Lauren Lim Jackson.
Now, Lauren, before you say anything, Lauren is currently in an active case and she will not be able to speak on this. Also, can I get the breaking news?
Oh,
We were able to get the original contract that Lauren Lim Jackson signed. There is a correction. She was not paid $300. She was paid $400. It is
oh,
$400. We're just here to keep everything honest because you know how people like to spin things. It is
okay,
$400 according to the original contract. So
okay.
we have corrected that without you saying anything. Uh, and we have also, if you notice, we didn't give her like a video because, again, we are not going to destroy this case. Instead, what we are planning to do is to discuss the following. This happened 10 years ago, Lauren.
Mm.
Why now?
Well, first, I want to acknowledge it's Women's Month, and I want to honor every single woman that has been a part of Sisters the Musical. Their work, their hearts have been poured out onto that stage, into that book. for 10 years, and I would be remiss without celebrating their work and honoring them. So I want to thank every single sister, every white, black woman that has ever brought that show to life to say thank you for your work. Um, 10 years, why now? Y- you know, as an ensemble dancer, you're sort of just trained to stand on your number, smile, and not make a fuss. And I've never been one to make a fuss about things. I don't like to be the loud one. I like to be a team player. And so when, I had originally done the work 10 years ago, I kind of just thought, well, things will work itself out. And Lauren, don't ruffle feathers. It's not worth it. Plus, it was being a choreographer was sort of like a side hustle, right? It wasn't anything that I took seriously, which is one of the reasons why I never became a member of SDC, the Stage Director and Choreographer Society, which is an important thing to note. Because I was like, oh, it's not a big deal. My art is my art. But 10 years have passed, and I've continued to work on Broadway and choreograph other things professionally, and realized that it was time to finally use my voice and take a moment and say, Lauren, you don't have to be quiet, and you don't have to stand on a number and smile. You can say when something's not right, and you can still honor a piece of art and honor work and honor my work, but also say, this wasn't so great. this wasn't the this wasn't the best outcome. Um, so that's the main reason why. And most importantly, as a mother now to two beautiful mixed race girls, and as the head of a conservatory for musical theater, I didn't want to look my students in the face and look my daughters in the face and say, you should really be an advocate, and you need to fight for what you believe in, and fight to protect your work and honor your work, if I can't do the same thing for myself. So it was time. It was time to grow up, to glow up.
I love that. Glow up, glow up. So the two of you know each other.
We
Yes.
do.
Y'all want to talk about that?
So
You start.
Stephanie J and I went to the same high school, different times, but still
Different
around the
times,
same.
different times.
There was some crossover in terms of institutional memory.
That's true.
Um, and we hadn't met until Pass the Mic Broadway.
Mm.
So Pass the Mic Broadway was an offshoot of Pass the Mic, which was done in the film and TV world, where they had prominent white actresses pass their mic to a lesser known actress of color. And so Dion was like, we should do this for Broadway. And so she did one series that was amazing. And I, when she first did, I was like, I don't know what to say. I don't know anything. Then when the second round came, she had a list of our stars, and I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, I would love to pair with Stephanie because we've had similar upbringings, we've had
Yes.
similar training, and it would be fun to discuss that and to sort of talk about the similarities and differences. And so then we like it was great. Was it a day? Was it a day?
It was one day.
One
There was
day.
some back and forth email exchanges or DM exchanges leading up to, and then it was one day. I got to listen to her all day long, speak to being an artist, speak to being a mother, and she's right. I mean, a lot of our lives parallel each other. Being raised in Orange County, um, going to the Orange County School of the Arts, having a passion and love for our drama teacher, Stevie Meredith, who, oh, I just got chills through my whole body. She passed on last fall, September the 18th, but has left such indelible lessons on my artistic life, my everyday life, my maternal life, my life as a friend. And I miss her, very deeply. But I think those three connections between Lauren and myself just lend itself to say, gosh, this would be a nice, just lending the mic. I also remember, though, I got to speak out. It's interesting because all of the media outlets, if I remember correctly, whether that be Playbill or Broadway or Theater Mania, they listed all of the white actresses that were going to lend their social media platform to pass the mic and neglected to list all of these amazing artists of color, completely off every press release. And that was another note that perhaps before I would not have noticed. You know, you kind of just zoom in, you see your name, you see the event, you go, aha, aha, okay, great, it got some attention. But that one was one of those times where I went, oh, this is, you talk about implicit bias. Again, I don't think it's done with malice. I don't think it's done with anger or with pointedness. It's just, we're done and we are doing what we're used to doing, and here's the press release. But for me, that was one of those aha moments because it was a personal sort of connection and a woman and an artist who I got to be reintroduced to and found great connection with. And then when that name was omitted, I thought, okay, there it is, literally in haha, not no pun intended, but black and white. There it is in black
Yeah.
and white. Yeah.
That brings me to the question I want to ask. I want to bring up Stevie a little bit later, but
Mm.
Lauren, I do
Mhm.
want to talk about what it means to be invisible or feel invisible. Because when I read, the reason I wanted everyone to hear your resume and your accomplishments is Harvard, multiple Broadway shows. You were teaching at OCSA over there in Orange County. And I just have to wonder, specifically, even in this moment, do you often feel that you are still invisible?
Yeah. And it's because I've always felt like it's always best to just blend in. Like literally, I feel like this is like ensemble training 101. It's like, you're there to present, but not to present too much, and not to be too little, but not too much. And it's do I feel visible to my friends and my family? Yes, but in general, it's I just go with the flow. I just try to go with the flow. I try to go with the flow, and maybe not so much anymore now. Or I'm still happy to go with the flow and go with the cause, but to not be afraid to make some ripples in the water.
So here's my big question. In your post, can I get the let me jack one more time? Oh no, not you, Stephanie. You're good. So there's a moment in this in which you talk about being considered lucky. I'm paraphrasing on purpose. You should be happy that you got this. We could take it down. How does that fall on you, even out of context? Just the idea of you should be lucky that your name is even here.
Right? Because it automatically assumes that I lack gratitude, and there was nothing but gratitude for all of this. It was when there was no gratitude for my work and for my voice, and for that gratitude to then be honored the way that everyone else's work is being honored on that creative team. And and I can't speak for other creatives, and what they did or did not receive. I can only speak for myself. And and that feels like a slap in the face, because you automatically assume that I'm not grateful, which I am. But being grateful does not mean to be taken advantage of.
Mm.
So here's my question. The show was around for 10 years, then COVID happened, it paused, it's coming back. Um, it went to BET Plus. Now, we can only state facts. In the creative team, when you did work on the show, how many people of color did you see? Well, how many black women specifically did you see?
Me
Just you?
on the creative team behind
Mhm,
the table,
mhm.
me, just
Just you?
one.
Okay, confirmed. Second question, can I get actors access? This is the most recent post. Um, if I look in, I believe I see your name based. So if let's see, I see the red, which is if possible, please submit actors online demo clips along with each actor submission. The second line down, I see based on the original choreography by Lauren Lim Jackson. Now, if you are the only black woman, we can take that. If you're the only black woman, and we're talking an age of diversity, and you are still the only black name on that creative team, but you are not being entitled to the royalties that should come from your intellectual property, what does that look like to you? Better yet, Stephanie, what does that look like?
Wait, can I interject one quickly?
Yeah, yeah.
So in that current breakdown, the new director and choreographer that will be setting it is a woman of color who was one of the first members of the cast. So she is
So they
she is
replaced you with a woman of color.
Well, the optics are terrible. The remounting of a show, I can't speak to 10 years past. I wish we were all much more present and much more vocal and aware at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I have no excuse for that other than shame on us and continue on. But now we're looking at spring of this year. And to still only speak to two women of color mounting a show based on the walk of life of three sisters of color, that's not easy even to say out loud on this podcast. You know, um, you're dealing with something that for me, I also need to learn a lot on, and that is language in contracts. And sometimes the industry is moving so fast, and whether that's about safety with automation on stage, whether that's about the different media platforms that our art form is now being used to promote and make someone money, whether that is how we are asked to come to work nowadays. It's not just to show up to a rehearsal and do the very best with what's on the page. We are asked to give of our artistic property they can take, they can use. So really the only thing we have to protect ourselves is the language on that piece of paper. And I can only speak again for myself. I look at a lot of these contracts and I don't know the language I'm looking at. It truly is like a foreign language. And this in perpetuity and all of this stuff that is, to me, I have to ask for a professional, which then comes out of my pocket, which I'm going to do this job so I can earn a living and pay my mortgage and feed my family. So we're already investing in language, but that language is going to protect us. But there are times where we don't even know what to put in there, because how could we possibly know how the tech industry is going to absorb a lot of the live industry? How are we possibly to know that this contract that I'm signing, which to me understands for this particular project off Broadway or off Broadway or out of town, is going to now continue on 10 years and you're going to keep making money off something I created? So it's very you say it out loud and it is toxic on the tongue. And that our best form of defense is, I think, well, what Lauren is doing now and preparing ourselves that in the future, these words, these pieces of paper that we are quote unquote so lucky to be offered and to put our, our initials on or our signature on, that is our safety net. And sadly, there is no more good faith. I don't know if it ever existed. Sadly, they say they're going to take care of you. It may not be in the contract or the writer, but they're upstanding and they've done XYZ with this production and this performer. It's just we can't do that anymore. We have to come to the table, maybe not always ready to respond. We can still be ready to listen, but we can say, hey, look, I respect you. My grandma used to say, it says love in the Bible, it does not say trust. There is nowhere that it says trust your neighbor. And when I come to business and I'm wearing that business or producer hat or however that looks, the trust goes out the window. And I say, look, I admire you, I respect you, I can't wait for us to work, but it needs to be in writing for me to move forward. And that has been a hard lesson. And I can only honor what Lauren is doing right now because she is protecting a lot of us for the future, because we have found ourselves in rooms where we are living our best lives and giving our highest form of art, and we are loving everybody in that room, and we know we're creating something special, and then we leave the room, and then it's literally used without a compensation. And that can't be anymore. We don't live in a barter system where, if you bring me 6 eggs, then I'll, wash your wagon wheel. That's not the way our economics work anymore. I need to see it in writing.
Lauren, I have a question for you.
Mhm.
When women start to speak out Aunt Viv, when women start to speak out, Monique, when women start to speak out, they are instantly labeled difficult. They are
Mm-hmm.
instantly cast as a villain. And it is a narrative that is, oh, it happens too often. This is why I wanted you on here. I wanted to make sure we controlled that narrative before you went through this. As you go through this, is there any hate or malice towards anyone involved in this?
No. I mean, is there great disappointment? Absolutely. Um, but there's never been hate or malice. And because when we were creating this piece of work, there was joy. And I want to hold on to that joy, but there's also, you can hold on to the joy and hold on to the facts that are, there's an imbalance. There's an imbalance. And so all I want to do is restore balance. And I kind of want to touch upon what Stephanie said about contracts and being smart enough and educating ourselves on what we even ask for. And if I were to tell myself 10 years ago, who was like, should I join SDC? Should I join this like protection for choreographers and directors, even though I'm just a chorus girl number two? You know, I would have been like, girl, you better join. And it was really nice to have a conversation with one of the SDC leaders who said, listen, I know this isn't an SDC contract because you're not an SDC member, but these are the different ways that you can protect yourself. These are the words, these are the things that you need to put into a contract so that you can make sure your work is protected. And that's the other thing I want to get out. This is just like what your grandma said, Stephanie. I'm like, this is not show friendship or show agreement. It's called show business.
Mm-hmm.
And as artists, we are not taught the business side of it.
Mm-mm.
We stand there in good faith that we will give you our art and our skills, and you will handle the business in a way that is equitable. And it's the gotcha is that we're never going to know unless we educate ourselves. So moving forward, I want to look at everybody and say, do your research, speak to anyone you can before you sign anything, because it is still a business at the end of the day. And your art is business, and your art, as Krisha Mercano says, your art is good business. We need to start treating our art as true business.
What I am taking, I'm learning a big lesson too, because we always get this question, right? What would you tell your younger self? And we answer in a way that gives us that 10 years of knowledge and experience. But Lauren's doing it now so that 10 years from now, she doesn't have to look back again and say, I regret, right? So you can tell that woman 10 years from now, I did it. And I need to do the same damn thing. I'm looking at myself saying things that I feel regretful for, the inactions, that can't be Stephanie J. Block 10 years from now, right? That can't be. It needs to happen now. I'm happy to talk to my 19-year-old self and say, you're enough, you're doing it, forget what others think, that's fine. But now in this moment, I can't look back from 10 years from now and say, why didn't you? Our instincts were telling us exactly what's the right way. And, I can't even, the words malice or anger, that's just not Lauren. And I hope that our community also starts speaking up for each other in that way. When someone speaks up and a narrative then gets in front of that person, but that person has been steadfast and a cog in this world and this community, and we know the intentions and the heart of that person, I hope that we can combat it with, no, that's not true. That's not true. I know this woman, or I know this person, or I know this being. And that's also we were on that cancel culture for a long time, and I don't know if that's going to give us the end result or the benefit that we are looking to as an entire community to move past. But the advocating for one another when they do speak up, that is going to be an army that I want to be a part of. And to say, I don't know if you want me to walk in front or aside or behind, but I will be where you place me, and I will protect your character because I know your character, right? I don't know the logistics of this suit or agreement that's being discussed right now. Again, I can't probably even speak to the language of that or recognize the language of that, but I know intention and I know heart, and I can speak to Lauren's heart and say, well, however this story gets out there and what ugly words might be used, then that's when we all raise up with our voices and say, that's not true. Let's take that back. That's what I know.
That's the dream. The reason
That's the truth.
the reason I was so like interested when talking to you, Lauren, is because again, like you said, Stephanie, Lauren, you're in a position now where you get to train up the children, train up a child in the way he should go. And what I found so interesting is when you spoke, again, you both spoke of it. You both had Stevie Meredith. Can I get Stevie? We pulled the picture.
Oh.
Look at that picture.
So this is Stevie Meredith. She was a matter of fact, Stephanie and Lauren, do y'all want to talk about?
Oh, well, she is I'm going to use it in the present tense because I believe her energy and her lessons and all of those things that still live in her students, she was a force. She was a
Yes.
truth teller. She would inspire you. I use the phrase, she encourages, but she also gives you courage. And you meet very few people who do both to say, you can have a cheerleader, but someone who also then gives you all the tools and the armor to go out in the world. Her daughter, Camila Marshall, is an exceptional human being on all levels, an artist and a dear friend, and she too walks in truth. She and her mom are kind of one and the same. And the legacy that she left on so many students at that Orange County School of the Arts, it's innumerable. And that picture kind of says it all. I mean, the woman is in a red sort of sequiny or latex catsuit. The bravery she had, the pride for her culture and her person. I could go on, but that's too much. Lauren, you take over.
What I realized when we did Pass the Mic Broadway was that Stevie, for both of us, was one of our first women teachers of color, period.
Yeah, that's true.
And growing up in Orange County, there aren't that many people that look like this. And so for me, when I stepped into her acting class my freshman year, I had never had a teacher see me and see me fully. It was Stevie and my modern teacher, Diane Bonds. They saw me fully. And I'd never been seen for the first time like that. I'd never had someone, an educator, do that for me. And Stevie did that. And as I'm running this program, I constantly think in my head, well, what would Stevie do?
Oh my
Because she wouldn't stand for foolishness. She wouldn't, and she would speak up. And it's now my time and my responsibility to speak up for those who cannot. She spoke up for those who cannot, and now it is my turn. So while she's been the voice for me, and I've been quiet and sort of just trying to get by, I can no longer remain silent.
That's amazing.
You're not alone, Lauren. Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone watching, please welcome Camila Marshall.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Hi. I am so proud of everybody on this platform, all three of you. And Stephanie Block is my sister and one of my greatest friends. I don't know the two of you, but I am just so proud to watch this. And it is an honor to sit and hear you talk about my mother. Forgive me.
I did not make Kleenex. What is this about?
So thank you for having me. You're right. She didn't stand for any foolishness at all. And it is such a testament when I listen to you, because you're doing exactly what she wanted you to do, what she encouraged you to do. You're doing it right. You're doing it right. This is the time. It's now, and she was an advocate for artists. She was an advocate for Black people. She was an advocate for women, Black women. And the more I reflect on her life and, with stories from her students, she was an advocate for everybody, just standing in their truth and knowing their worth and speaking up for themselves. Everybody. So you are doing all the right things. If nothing happens, if all the wrong things happen from this suit, you know what I mean? If it just doesn't go your way, it doesn't matter, because this is still the right thing. So I'm just so happy. I can't believe we've never met each other.
It's so crazy, right?
Yes, the same spaces. Stephanie, I love you.
I love you too. I truly, holy smokes, I had no idea. Thank you so much.
I just
Thank
think it's
you.
beautiful what's happening. And Davon, I think it's beautiful the light that you're shining on everything you really just letting this platform be and letting people take up space and be heard. It's so important. So important. So thank you. And thank you for letting us honor my mother. It's very important to me. Everything is still very, very fragile. And I think my tears right now, I was so concerned in just being a blubbering mess. But I think my tears are right now because I'm just looking at two of the women that she encouraged and just wanted so much for. And I'm like, she's very much alive in both of you in the work that you're doing. So I'm super grateful for that.
Super grateful for you. Thanks, Mary.
Yes, thank you.
And we're gonna hug each other one day, Lauren, and just love
Yes,
each
that's right.
other.
Oh my goodness.
Camila, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having
You and
me.
Eden show is hilarious, and I was like, I just want to meet her. And then when it's
Oh,
happening,
you
I'm
do
like,
want to
what?
meet her. Yeah,
Is the
you
world
do.
this small?
Let's love each other. This was too divine. I mean, Eden was telling me the story, and when you said my mom's name to Davon, it was just like, how is this happening? I'm just getting proof every day that she's just still working and still alive, and you are definitely a part of this legacy. So I'm so grateful.
Lauren, I hope you feel encouraged. I know
I'm a
exactly what it
mess.
feels like. I know exactly what it feels like to put yourself out there. And when I heard your story, I said she can at no point ever feel alone, especially in a moment where she's doing it so right.
Mm.
Mm.
Thank you. Thank you.
Stephanie, thank you for
Oh,
lending your voice, lending your being, lending your presence to this moment again when asked for help.
thanks. Yes, thank you. That's all I can say. Thank you.
All right, at this point, if you'll ever need me, reach out. In 5 episodes, I'll be a free agent again. I'll be out here auditioning and acting. So I'll have time to be a nerd again and look up stuff for people. But at this point, what I would love to do for everyone still watching is I would like to talk about what this 5-story arc is about. So if you can probably guess by now, season 1 was about the truth, season 2 was about justice, and season 3 is about joy. It's about joy. So we are going to go through something that's happening right now. And I can almost guarantee that by the end of it, we're going to find it. And I can't think of a better place to end than with joy. So again, I want to thank you all for coming. I'm about to introduce our next guest. And our story, our second story and final story of this episode, takes us to Orlando. Can I get Matt Palm?
Matt Palm is a journalist who has worked at the Orlando Sentinel since 1997 and spent the past 12 years focused on arts coverage. Matt has watched hundreds of plays, ballets, symphony concerts, operas, and other staged shows since first seeing Les Miserables as a teenager in upstate New York. A graduate of Syracuse University, he is the Orlando Centennial's arts writer and theater critic, covering theater, dance, music, and visual arts. As controversy surrounding Orlando's Mad Cow Theater has come to light over the years, Matt has been a vital resource that has reported the allegations from the beginning. Claiming themselves as one of Orlando's most respected theater companies, presenting compelling works of theater for a wide range of audiences, with a passion for both classic and contemporary plays and musicals from the best of American and world literature. The Orlando arts community was shocked when accusations of late paychecks to artists, unresolved debt to the city, and misrepresentation of Black performers' contributions were announced. Some local activists and organizations, including Central Florida Entertainment Advocacy, or CFEA, are now publicly demanding a complete leadership change. Davon has invited Matt to give his professional insight to the latest developments. Let's welcome Matt to the broadcast.
Woo! Oh, we're still typing at that moment that this took place. Matt Palm.
Hello, Davon. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Also, it's Sentinel. Sentinel. There we go. First question out the gate. On a scale of 1 to, I took her out myself like it was like it was Nancy Kerrigan. Where's Betsy?
Betsy?
Betsy's the person that had your job before. That's the kind of investigative journalism we do here at the Receipts. What are you doing?
Oh my gosh. Well, her professional name is Elizabeth, so you threw me there for a second.
Oh, all
But
right.
she is very happily retired, and I still run into her all the time around town at shows, and she is very happily retired. She always looks at me and says, "You're working so hard. I'm glad it's not me."
It's part of the reason I'm happy you're here. Like, again, when you look at everything that's taken place with Mad Cow, you're the source. You are the resource. You have done the most reporting on this entire situation. How do you feel about that?
Well, it comes with the territory. I mean, and I know your show is not focused on the state of journalism today, but in a town of Orlando size, I shouldn't say town. I mean, it's a huge city. It's one of the major metro areas of the country. But even in a city our size, you're likely to only have one full-time arts reporter, if you're lucky enough to even have one in this day and age. So the fact, my company employs me is, I hope, a benefit for the people of Orlando. And when a big story happens, you do over time become the leading expert because you're the one person whose job it is to focus on it.
You seem to be the only source. No, I'm messing with you. Just state of journalism. Woo! But I know you just came from a show today, right?
Yes, I had a matinee this afternoon. I was rushing back to get here in time.
Well, you're smiling, so I'm assuming the show was good. I'm assuming you enjoyed.
Oh, you're trying to trick me. I can't say till it comes out in print. It was.
So
I will say this, just because your listeners are industry people, so they would be interested. It was Parade, the Jason Robert Brown musical, and so it's a hard show to say you enjoy because of the subject matter and the issues it's bringing up and what it's about. But it was a benchmark for Orlando in that, as far as I know, it's not been done in Central Florida before. I've never had the chance to see it anywhere. So for me to see a show brand new to me that's been around a while was a change for me as well. So I was very glad it was done here.
That's awesome. And you've set me up to where I was going. So everyone, we are doing 5 episodes. Today, we are only doing the facts. And if I'm correct, Matt, the only way you can be here and the only way you can speak is to what is said in your articles.
Correct. Because I'm the news reporter of record, I am not allowed to have an opinion on anything that I write in this sort of news situation. It's an interesting division of jobs. I critique theater as part of my job as the theater critic, and then it's all my opinion really. And then when I do news reporting, it is factual.
Great.
So no wild speculation or hypothetical ideas from me.
That's good. I stayed up all night. I have the questions. I'm trying to not lead you. This is going to be very interesting. We are walking the line. In one of your articles, you talk about pay discrepancies. Can you really break down what took place in that moment between those actors and Mad Cow?
Well, there's been a long history at the theater of actors not getting paid as their contracts or their agreements specified. I mean, actors have been raising this issue for longer than a decade at this point. And there's always been lots of, reasons why. Cash flow. I mean, any small theater company would understand the pressures of coming up with the money and of having a business model. And Orlando is one of the highest places, highest cities in the world for rent, comparatively speaking, to our average income, our level of income. It's always been difficult, but this has been an ongoing issue. It has come up multiple times. Every time it comes up, the theater makes an effort to square the books. They always tell me that they are open to receiving complaints. If anyone thinks they are owed money, to let them know. They try to resolve it. And I generally hear eventually that people have been paid, things have been taken care of. But a lot of the actors have brought up the point of, why is it such a struggle, and why does that struggle continue? Now, the discrepancies that you talk about are, this is a theater that employs union and non-union actors. So there have been times when union actors have gotten paid on time as per their contract, and then the non-union actors have had to wait.
It's interesting. It's interesting. My understanding is that you've also had the chance to talk with Mitzi.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I mean, I've known Mitzi Maxwell is the executive director of the theater, and I have known her and spoken with her for years.
Why do you? What are some of the reasons, as outlined in your articles, to why we are having these misconnects regarding payment?
Well, there are multiple reasons. I mean, the cash flow is definitely an issue. It's not a theater that has ever made a lot of money. It has had, more critical success than outright commercial success, although it's never been like a failure. You don't see empty houses there. Like a lot of small theaters, it has a lot of staffing changes, staff come and go. At Mad Cow, that would be compounded by the fact that staff would often complain that they weren't getting paid on time, meaning the box office staff, the finance staff, the people behind the scenes. And when I say staff, don't envision a huge office block of 100 people. We're talking, the 4 or 5 people who were trying to work and keep everything going there. So the reasons often tended to do with the resources available to the theater company. And sometimes other things would crop up. There was a software switch that had some glitches, or, obviously the pandemic for recent cases has thrown out the way everyone does business and changed a lot of things. Those are the kind of reasons that were given.
Can you describe, for example, it's a fact. Mad Cow did not own their space. It was actually owned by the city. And now recently, as of, I believe it was Monday, they have been ordered that they have to leave by May 30th. Is it May 30th?
Yes, it's the end of May, yes.
End
So
of
might be
May.
the 31st.
Maybe the 31st. Maybe they'll get
But
out a day. I like to leave a day early. Maybe they'll push it to the 31st.
Right. I can't remember which day Memorial Day is. I don't know, but it is the end of May for sure.
So end of May, they have to leave. What is the relationship between the city and that space, and how did Mad Cow get it? I believe you outlined that.
Yes, well, it's a bit of a history, so I'll try to make it as brief as I can. But one of the things that the city of Orlando very wisely and supportively of the arts community here has done is sometimes with major building projects, they work into the contracts that the city will get space for community resources. Mad Cow Theater is located downtown. It is on Church Street, which is a prime entertainment street. It's bars and restaurants, and it leads right directly into our giant the Amway Center, the giant stadium or the arena where the Orlando Magic play, for example, the professional basketball team. It's sort of the heartbeat of downtown's entertainment diversion area. So this is prime space. A company came along, wanted to build a huge high-rise condo tower right on the street. The city said, fine, but you have to give us a specific amount of space that we can use to promote arts, culture, recreation to our citizens. And this all was agreed upon. So the city technically has this space as part of this giant development's original deal. The city turned around and offered to lease it to Mad Cow Theater, which at the time was in a different downtown space paying commercial rent and was really struggling. And part of this non-payment of money that it owed in a timely fashion was an obvious sign of the struggle. The city said, what if you came and used this space and just pay us a nominal fee and rent, like one of those $1 a year to make it technically and legally rent, but without really having to pay rent. So this seemed like a great opportunity. Now, it's a little more complicated than that because, of course, every great opportunity comes with strings. Mm-hmm. Part of it was the space had to be transformed into a theater. And the agreement between the city and Mad Cow was that the theater would pay for that construction project to turn this empty space into, a theater and dressing rooms, and there's a smaller black box theater and a lobby, and there was work that had to be done to make it into a usable theater space.
Mm-hmm.
Also, in the fine print of the contract, or in the, I shouldn't say fine print like it was hidden, but in the depths of the contract, it specified that there would be some sort of common area maintenance charge, which is not uncommon when you lease space like this. There are costs that all the businesses along Church Street share to keep Church Street a friendly, pedestrian, welcoming place for the citizens. Now, the context behind this is many organizations in Orlando, many arts organizations, nonprofits, have deals with the city that are very similar, where they do not really pay rent for their space. This includes our professional ballet company, our professional orchestra, other theaters, our regional Shakespeare theater. So lots of groups have this, but none of them have this common area maintenance fee because they are not in a neighborhood that requires that or in a development area that needs that. So you can debate, we don't know if that just sort of then fell through the cracks or if it just wasn't clear what exactly happened there. What I do know is that debt or that charge turned out to be a couple $1,000s a month, every month. The cost of renovating the space or reconstructing it into a theater far exceeded what anyone expected. And the theater suddenly was on the hook for this money that they didn't anticipate that they would have to come up with all this money. So now we flash forward 10 years, and the city has said, we want the money.
Mm.
They haven't collected it in years. I mean, the theater isn't in a position to pay it. Mitzi Maxwell, again, the executive director, has told me right before she signed the contract, she was assured that that was just boilerplate legal information that had to go in the contract, but the theater would not be required to pay this maintenance fee. The city at one point also backtracked on the construction amount of the construction costs and provided a letter, which I have read, that said, although the theater signed a contract saying they were responsible for the construction fees, they didn't run the construction, the city did, and it's the city's responsibility that the construction ran so far over cost. Don't hold that against the theater. So there's actually a little more gray area to all this than it sounds like on paper. But what we know is that the city has taken a hardliner approach in the past few months and said the terms of their contract say, written down, and I know you've had a lot of talk about contracts in this episode of the show. I've been listening with a lot of interest. This is what the contract says. Legally, you have to pay this money. The theater can't pay it. They don't have the money because at this point, it is racked up over the years to more than $500,000. And so the deal that has been made is the city will cancel any debts that they owe. The theater will leave the space at the end of May, and the theater will leave behind the equipment and the work and everything that makes it usable as a theater so that another group can use it and downtown won't suffer the loss of the theater.
What I find very interesting about what you're saying, which is all of it, the relationship with the city, I was like, okay, cool. They didn't have the money and stuff like that. So I thought, okay, wait a minute. So much of theater is built on grants. And then here comes Matt Palm talking about what took place at a grant panel, a series of them. And then I went, okay, so it's just not the city. It's also the panels in which there's been some sort of trouble or discrepancies. Usually they have money that normally comes to them through grants, which apparently they have not received this time around. Can you walk us through that grant journey?
Yes. Now, grants are, as you say, they are often a good source of income for nonprofits. Mad Cow Theater has had trouble getting some grants because of the state of their financial situation. They couldn't, certain grants require certain audits or certain, a level of financial stability that they could not demonstrate. And they have lost grants from United Arts of Central Florida, which is a local fundraising agency that supports multiple nonprofits throughout 4 counties in Central Florida. And they lost out on that. Then this past round of grants, they have lost money from other entities, in part because of an issue you alluded to earlier. A local advocacy group spoke out and said they wanted change at that theater, that they felt the theater could not move forward without making significant change to leadership. And if you've ever been to a grant panel hearing, at least when public money is concerned, the public has the right to speak. And so these advocates did go to multiple grant hearings and speak about their concerns about the theater, to speak out against it. And as a result, the theater did lose grants that it normally might have received.
Mm. In everything that you have written, is there anything that you're going, I really want people to focus on this article in this moment?
Ooh, that's a tough one, because it really feels like every article has a new piece of information seems to come to light every so often. That's why there's a new article usually, because something has changed. But I think, I mean, I honestly, and this is going to sound kind of trite, but I think one of the big lessons here is what the women were speaking of earlier on the show. You have to look at contracts. You can't assume because someone says don't worry about that, or it'll be fine. You better make sure everything is completely understood. That is sort of the hardcore lesson of this. The squishier lesson in this is theater in particular. I mean, all nonprofits, any nonprofit that has a public community serving aspect, which basically is all nonprofits, but I think artistic ones in particular rely on the goodwill and the relationships with the artistic community, and that includes the audience members as well as performers and creative people and the technicians that make it all happen. And if you get into a situation where things start to go bad between a segment of that community and your own, like crisis bells need to go off full force. There has to be some sort of immediate procedure to try to rectify whatever the situation is. A lot of the actors who I've spoken with for my articles who did not get paid are less concerned. I don't know if it's fair to put words in the mouth like less concerned, but I would say the amount of the money they're owed for like a small role in a local theater production from 5 years ago, that's not a make or break deal to them. It is what they perceive as the lack of respect, the lack of trying, the lack of communication to deal with them professionally and make things right that bothers them almost even more. In a sense, I don't want to, there's no real comparison, but if you can think of it maybe as analogous to Lauren feeling like she has to stand up and say something about the way she feels she was treated. Again, I can't really speak for her, but $400 from years ago, that's probably not the number one concern. It's just the idea of something needs to change, something needs to be stopped, people need to stand up and do it. And that's what these advocates have been trying to do. They want to make a change. And the city has never directly addressed whether any of its decisions were related to the advocacy or the lack of grants from other places. They will only comment on the contract and what it says specifically. But, I think you have to look at these advocates wanted a change and they're getting a change.
Matt, you are clearly going to be the blueprint as we navigate through these episodes. And I want to thank you for making this, for doing all the work you've done, for reporting and getting us where we need to go. Because let's think of this as a commercial. I think anyone who is interested in how this story is going to unfold, if you want to do some reading before these next 4 episodes, the last 4 episodes of this show, I strongly encourage you to read what Matt Palm has written regarding Mad Cow on behalf of the Orlando Sentinel. And The reason I say that is because I also think of you as an incredibly fair person. It doesn't surprise me that Mitzi wanted to speak to you because I think you've been incredibly fair, which again, when you're talking about mainstream news, we don't get it all the time. We don't get it. Your job's in danger. Your job's in danger. You're getting entertainers. You're getting people like me. No, I'm joking.
Fair enough.
So, with that being said, the reason I want you all to read this is because, again, I think there's joy at the end of this. And so often we think that the union is evil. We think that producers are evil. We think everyone's evil. And I want to put this thought in your head as we've gone through these seasons. Again, this final season, which is about joy. Could Mitzi, who has been running this, be this evil, conniving producer? Or are we dealing with someone who wanted to bring a gift to the community and got in over her head? We don't know today. But by the end of this show, I'm pretty sure we will. Because from that grant panel, we were able to secure, just like we did when it was the Cats investigation, we were able to secure the paperwork from the grants. We were able to locate the actors. We were able to get in touch with the activists. And we were able to get in touch with ex-staffers. So we are going to get first-hand accounts of what took place, and then we are going to assemble what happened. And then we're just going to straight up ask Mitzi, how did we get here? My name is Davon Williams. Thank you, Matt, for being here. Thank you, Stephanie, Lauren, Camila. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Napoleon. Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Bob, for this strong first episode of The Receipts.